Let me just be honest. And I can say this speaking as now that I'm my husband's caregiver. I see the people taking care of him, and they do take great care of him. And, I see them joking around with him, and I see that they like him and everything. But he's my husband, so I will take care of him in a different way. But I'm not his caregiver 24/7. I can't be at this point. So what I would say is when you choose the right place for your parent, you're not just going to walk into one place and go, yep, this is it, moving them in. You're going to do your homework. You're going to do your research. I would say the majority of caregivers and people are in this for the right reason. Could you possibly get someone who's not a great caregiver and doesn't do? Yeah, because we're relying on human beings. So that can happen. So you're going to do your best research to find the place that's right for your parent. Welcome to Aging in Style, the podcast dedicated to celebrating aging and what it takes to do it well. I'm Lori Williams. I'm a certified senior advisor and senior housing expert. In each episode, you'll learn stories of older adults who are thriving in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and in some cases in their hundreds. Whether you're an older adult or the child of an older adult, this podcast is filled with insightful resources, organizations that are doing incredible work, and stories that will inspire you to volunteer, learn, and who knows, maybe even skydive in your golden years. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Aging in Style. We are back for more questions from our listeners, and we're really loving this segment, and we're getting good feedback on it, so keep those questions coming. So today's question, Anna, my fabulous producer, will be telling us what that question is.
All right. Hello. So here's the question. I promised my parents they'd stay home and they would never go into a nursing home, but now things have changed. What do I do?
That is an excellent question, and a lot to that question. So a lot of people make that promise, and I get it, especially if we're thinking it's a nursing home. And so I'm going to address that in a minute about nursing homes, because there's a big misconception that all types of senior living are nursing homes, and they are not. There are lots of other options. So, it's admirable, and we want to respect and do what's right for our parents. We love them. We make these promises, but, that's a tough promise to make because we don't know what life is going to throw at us. And the person that sent in the question did not say what's going on with their parents. So if someone has mobility issues, it can be very difficult to care for someone who is unable to walk, or maybe they have dementia. Again, very difficult to do that. And also the person could be working full time. They could be a mom. There's so many factors, and there are so many people out there who are struggling, who are trying to do everything, and they've made these promises and they're trying to do the best they can. So I get it, but there is a point you have to consider your health as the caregiver, and are you doing what's right for your parents? So are they safe to be at home? Are you having to leave them a lot because you're having to go do your life and then come back and check on them? And I talk to a lot of people who they're doing things, they're getting by, but they're getting by until something drastic happens. And so I feel like even though you made that promise, you can't get caught up in that I'm breaking a promise to my parents. You kept the promise as long as you could, but it's time. If they're in an unsafe situation, it's time to look at other options. And then back to the nursing home, not everything is a nursing home. So there are other options out there. Maybe they just need assisted living. Maybe they're needing some help with bathing and dressing and, meals. And so that's completely different, what an assisted living looks like and then what a nursing home looks like. So I think it would be really important to talk to someone to find out what's going on, what kind of care they're needing, and then begin looking at some of the places. Go out and do your research, get educated. Like I say all the time, you don't know what you don't know. So you're basing a decision on maybe what someone told you, or maybe you visited your grandparents in a 1970s nursing home. And now there's tons and tons of different options available.
Yeah, it's funny that you're saying that, because I can imagine people just almost demonizing that idea. Like, mom and dad, no one will care for them as well as I do, or they'll never give them as much love as I can give them. And funny enough, you always share stories of how amazing the people that take care of these seniors are, right? Like, they really are in it for the passion. So that's, if someone's saying, well, my parents won't be taken care of, what would you tell them?
I would say, that's why we look for, let me just be honest. And I can say this speaking as now that I'm my husband's caregiver. I see the people taking care of him, and they do take great care of him. And, I see them joking around with him, and I see that they really, they like him and everything. But he's my husband, so I will take care of him in a different way. But I'm not his caregiver 24/7. I can't be at this point. So what I would say is, when you choose the right place for your parent, you are going to go, you're not just going to walk into one place and go, yep, this is it, moving them in. You're going to do your homework. You're going to do your research. I would say the majority of caregivers and people are in this for the right reason. Could you possibly get someone who's not a great caregiver and doesn't do, yeah, because we're relying on human beings. So that can happen. So you're going to do your best research to find the place that's right for your parent. You're not just going to move them in there and never go see them again. I think there's a lot to be said for being close by so that you can go and visit after work, or you go get them, take them out for lunch, or whatever it may be. You're just not, abandoning them. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize, when you are so deep entrenched in this role that you are caring for your parents, you're working, you're doing all this stuff, you're exhausted, you're kind of have gone out of the role of just being a daughter or being a son. And so I think it's really important that once you have them move to the right place, they're getting the care they need, they're getting good meals, they're thriving and doing better, and you're back just being the daughter who's visiting. I think that there's a lot to be said for that.
Right. It's not about just thinking about them, it's also thinking about you and how can you show up as the best possible person for them when they're there. Because you're right, it's not about just abandoning them. It's just so you can live your life and really make the best out of the time that you have together instead of stressing out all the time.
Yeah. And are they getting their best quality of life? I've had many people tell me that my mom lives with me, so she has dementia. I go to work, so I leave cereal out for her. And then, I call and check on her. I've got cameras. She's sitting there wandering the house all day long by herself. Is that really the best thing for her? I would think it'd be better to be somewhere where she's getting hot meals. There's actual people there, not just someone over a camera checking in. To me, they're having that social interaction, which is so huge and important. So, those are the things to consider. Yes, you made this promise, but you don't know all the facts. So you promise something without knowing that there are other options that would actually probably be better for your loved one.
Right. And even if we're not even talking about dementia, we may be talking about, for instance, someone had a stroke and is immobilized, even the house itself. It's not fit for them, right? So even the type of care, it's going to be really complicated and hard and costly. You know what
exactly
a lot of the work you had to do yourself, and you were able to do it, but maybe not a lot of people can do it. So would you mind extending a little bit on the conditions of the home?
Sure. So the majority of homes, and this is something that I recently learned. So my husband, you listen to the podcast, my husband had a stroke on Christmas Day, and he's still in rehab, but his occupational therapist brought him to the house to just kind of see what modifications we needed to do to the house. And I had never realized he could get through every doorway except the doorway into the bathroom. Doorways in most homes to the bathrooms are smaller. They're not wide enough for a wheelchair to go through. And I don't know if they build these like this everywhere, but in Texas, they're really popular. You build a master bedroom and bathroom, and the master bathroom is like its own little room with the potty in there. I guess we just call it the potty room.
Right.
But there's no way to adjust that and make that wider. So that was going to be impossible to get a wheelchair in there. So at great expense, I've had one of our, and thank God we had 2 bathrooms downstairs, It's another thing to think about. A lot of people I talk to, the master bedroom is upstairs. So what do you do in that case? There's no way you're getting upstairs if you're in a wheelchair. So we were lucky that, we had 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms downstairs. Then we were able to convert one of the bathrooms by taking out a closet, putting in a pocket door, and now it's wide enough. But those are things to consider because the average house is not set up for someone who is in a wheelchair. So if you have a family member who has had a stroke or something that has caused them to not be able to get around, how are you going to take care of them in your house? How are you going to get them to the bathroom? So those are things to consider. And is it better to just go ahead, let's look at assisted living at this point?
There's definitely a lot of things to think about in there, but in a nutshell, it's the best for the parents, right? Like not really about the promise you made maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 6 months when things were different. It's just about like what's better for everybody.
Exactly. I think, in my opinion, it's one, as the caregiver, about your health and about your well-being. Yes, you made this promise, but at what detriment to yourself, trying to keep this promise if you have to work and take care of kids and do all this other stuff. And your parents, are they truly getting the best care if you can't be there and they're home alone all the time? So you have to think about that. You have to think about your parents, what's best for them, and keeping them safe and having socialization and all of the things so that they can continue to thrive as they age. Those are important things to consider. And you just cannot say, I made this promise. They're never, we're never moving them anywhere. And, just kind of repeat myself, but not everything is a nursing home. Get out there, do your research, and find what the other options are.
Right. Or just go on to the website and look in through the episodes and all the amazing blog posts that you've created through the years, right? To explain the differences and then maybe talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Educate yourself. And that's, as I say all the time, that is the purpose of this podcast, to educate people, because there's lots of options out there.
Right. Okay, Lori, that's all from me, I believe.
Okay, sounds good. Keep those questions coming. You can send them into my website, which is LoriWilliams-SeniorServices.com. And please continue sharing our podcast with your friends and family, and be sure that you are liking and following, because we have new episodes every Friday and you don't want to miss them. So thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.